Hello once again to the delightful denizens of the liveactionanime.org forums. I am, once again, Thrashed Till Death, and I'm here today to give you my review of a very interesting film. Michael Arias's Tekkonkinkreet. Make sure you send that out before you say it. This is a film adapted from the manga of the same name by Taiyo Matsumoto and produced by Studio 4 Degrees Celsius, who also worked on the Animatrix in the past. And it piqued my interest a bit because earlier this month I went to see Danny Boyle's film Slumdog Millionaire at the cinema. And I thoroughly advise you all to do the same because it's a fantastic film. Go and see it if you've got the opportunity. And a large part of what that film dealt with was the urban revitalization of India and the sort of social turmoil and upheaval it brought with it. And Tekkonkinkreet deals with a lot of the same themes. Furthermore, it's also the first time that an American director has successfully commandeered a Japanese animation studio, so in that respect it's kind of breaking down barriers. The story involves two young street urchins named Black and White, don't ask why, and they're on the streets of Treasure Town, and this is sort of a fictionalized, hypothetical Japanese city going through this period of urban upheaval, and this has all led to sort of gang disputes and turf wars over who really owns this city. And of course Black feels he has a claim to it over all the Yakuza and the other gangs that are laying claims to the town, so he gets caught up in all the middle of it, and White with him. And unfortunately this film also bears the distinction that it's just not very good. Allow me to elaborate. It's kind of a pity because everything about this film suggests that a huge amount of effort was invested in it. Everyone involved, the animators, the director, the story writers, they all believed that they were delivering this sort of insightful, humanist social commentary. But as the film goes on, it becomes increasingly obvious that it was completely beyond their means to portray. They just bit off a hell of a lot more than they could chew. And yeah, for one thing, it's a very busy film. The animation, for one thing, is technically stunning, as usual, but you know, technical merit can only get you so far in the world of animation these days now that everything looks fucking brilliant. So, otherwise, I didn't really care for the look of this film at all. That's my first complaint. Every frame, it seems, is consumed by all these very complex patterns, and much I kind of like Paprika, towards the end it can almost get into clusterfuck territory. Also, I didn't really care for the character designs. It's Studio 4 Degrees Celsius did this in the Animatrix as well. They have to learn there's a difference between experimental animation and characters that just look fucking ugly. Furthermore, the screenplay sort of fails the same way. Scenes are just rushed by you. Nothing's really developed beyond sort of 5 minutes and a few lines of dialogue. It doesn't really take time out for serious contemplation of what it's showing you. It just rushes you from one thing to the next with no time to really get your bearings. There's a whole myriad of various plot lines. There's one Yakuza gangster, there's another Yakuza gangster, neither of whom I really care to remember their names. You've got a pair of police officers who sort of resemble the two from Karas, only not really as charming or interesting. And you've got this old homeless guy, and you've got one gangster who gets his girlfriend pregnant, and it just goes on like this. And all these plot lines do sort of interweave and reflect on each other, but each one's it's set over a running time of only 1 3/4 hours, and it all just feels so incredibly crammed in that you just don't get time to really sympathise with any of these characters or really learn what their story is. Black and White as protagonists, they're kind of evocative of Akira's Kaneda and Tetsuo, except that they don't really provoke that much sympathy. Black's just sort of this emotionless cipher who's purported to have this sort of inner turmoil between nihilism and humanism going on within him, represented in this case by this sort of mystical Minotaur, and the other side of him by his younger sibling White. But you never really get the sense of that really going on within the context of the story. And frankly, White himself is just annoying. He comes out with all these sort of charming little kiddie lines of dialogue like, "I'm afraid of the night, it makes me think about death," or be happy, and it just grates on your nerves. And all in all, Tekkonkinkreet it tries so hard to be this grand sweeping thing in scope and everything, but it just doesn't have the subtlety or the refined touch to pull it off. All the villains are just these sort of cigar-chomping Yakuza assholes who live at the top of skyscrapers and send out, you know, these superpowered henchmen to deal with street urchins. You don't really get much of the sense of ambiguity that it really wants to put across, that really a story of this sort of type demands, much like Slumdog Millionaire has. And overall, I'd probably recommend you give Tekkonkinkreet a miss. On the 4-star scale, I reckon this is a 2. It does bear some merit simply for the effort it puts in, and for all it does wrong, it does manage to put across this fairly grand scope, and it does get some of the themes across in a very rudimentary way. But overall, it disintegrates under its own weight. If you want to see a film like this, again, go and watch Slumdog Millionaire. Tekkonkinkreet, you don't need it. Okay, that's pretty much all I have to say here. So, check out other anime and other reviews. I hope to see you again in the near future. I am Thrastal Death, signing out now. Goodbye.